This is what you guys have been waiting for. This is where we schmooze with Brad.
All right, the Australian climate problems are still going on. The wildfires there. Thousands of activists have marched in several major cities across Australia on Friday, calling on the government to act on climate change, on the climate crisis that is affecting Australia. Australia is really, that and Southeast Asia are going to be the two hardest hit places first about climate change. Watch, besides Australia, it's going to be Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, that whole area there.
Yeah.
And then it's going to spread around the whole world. It's coming your way too. Yeah. You see that picture right now? It's coming everywhere because nobody is doing anything about it. The protests organized by national student organization Uni Students for Climate Justice were set to take place in 9 cities, including Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and Perth. Friday's protests have pushed for 5 main demands. Let's fund firefighters. We need more of them. Relief and aid for affected communities. Land and water sovereignty for indigenous communities, an immediate transition towards renewable energy, and a just transition for workers in the fossil fuel industry. A total of 27 people have died so far in Australia. Over 1 billion animals have died, 2,000 homes destroyed, and it is not over yet.
Right.
And if you think this is a one-off thing, it's going to get worse next year, and the year after, and the year after.
Yeah.
And it's coming your way too.
Yeah,
what you see in Australia is going to happen everywhere.
People think that we're safe just because it's not happening here.
Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison, he campaigned on the fact that climate change is hashtag fake news. And he's now facing growing anger and frustration from the public as the fires are continuing to spiral out of control. He was widely criticized for taking a vacation in Hawaii while the fires were raging in north-southwest Australia last month. He has been accused of downplaying the problem. It's not to be downplayed anymore. Earlier today, American firefighters arrived to applause at the airport.
I saw that video.
And more than $4,200 are going to each of the volunteer firefighters battling the blazes for more than 10 days. Critics, as I said, have pointed out his history of climate skepticism and support for coal miners.
Oh, God.
Do you know who coal miners support?
Who?
Do you know who coal miners support? Coal miners support, it's out of order here, Donald Trump.
Okay, that makes sense.
Why does coal miners support Donald Trump? Because the Trump administration has now rolled back more than 100 environmental regulations that are supposed to curb climate change. They have rolled it back to cause more pollution, more climate change. Who loves that? Coal miners.
Right.
And you know what also Trump did? He pulled out of the Paris Accords. The Paris Accords was the first small, puny attempt by the world to try to get our climate change under control. He pulled out of it because he said America has too much of an economic burden. But America is responsible for, I don't know the exact amount, but a large portion of the pollution that is going in the air that is causing climate change. Now, Donald Trump in 2016, when he was campaigning in West Virginia, he was saying, I love coal. Coal's the best. Climate change is a hoax. He even tweeted once, it's snowing in Washington. What happened to climate change, right?
Right.
What happened to global warming? Well, today, when asked by a White House poll reporter if he believes climate change is a hoax, the president changed his mind.
Of course.
For the first time that I am aware of, the president said, quote, no, not at all. Nothing's a hoax. Nothing's a hoax about that. It's a very serious subject. I want clean air. I want clean water.
Really?
This is the first time that he has ever said that while he was in the Rose Garden ceremony or somewhere in a ceremony honoring the rollback of 100 environmental regulations, which will only line the pockets of him and his rich cat friends, while we all choke on our water and we all choke on our air and we all have to live in fear of what is happening in Australia is going to happen in our backyard too. Trump, he's gone back and forth a lot on this because I have here in my notes, he called climate change a make-believe problem, a big scam, a Chinese hoax, yet he calls himself an environmentalist. Now, hundreds of thousands of public comments against the president's move have flowed in. Scientists have spoken out in opposition about what he's doing to the environment here and what's happening to the environment around the world. Nothing has so far stopped him. Let me go back to the rest of my cards now. I'm out of order here. Let's see, what else is happening? Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has passed war powers resolution to restrict Donald Trump from going to war against Iran without permission from the House. We do not know whether the Senate's going to pass that or not, because the House is made up of a majority of Democrats. That's the general who got killed. But the Republicans control the Senate. We'll see if the Republicans cede their control to the president and just hand him more and more power. We'll see if that happens. Donald Trump, because he's crazy. Because I remember we were talking about, he's out crazy and crazy. Okay? He was at his first campaign re-election rally for 2020. And at this rally, he was boasting in Toledo, Ohio, that by killing General Soleimani, this is what's called American justice. Then he condemned and mocked Democratic leaders for questioning his decision to carry out the attack without consulting Congress. Trump then questioned House Speaker Pelosi's mental acuity and called Representative Adam Schiff, who was leading the impeachment against him, a pencil neck. He also tagged Senator Bernie Sanders as crazy Bernie. We'll see what happens.
All right.
See what else is happening here. The 737 I'm not talking about the 737 that got shot down by the Iranians. They're claiming that it didn't happen. But all foreign intelligence outside of Iran says that it was a anti-missile defense that went up and it most likely mistook a low-flying airplane for an incoming missile.
That is horrible. And
shot that airplane out of the sky. It's actually sad because this Ukraine airline seems to get a lot of issues, because you remember the Malaysian airline also got shot out of the sky by an anti-missile over Ukraine. During the war between Russia and Ukraine, which is still ongoing right now. And it's also interesting because the president of Ukraine is embroiled in this impeachment, and now he's also embroiled in the low-level war, which may be a big war between the United States and Iran. He wants to stay out of this, and he keeps getting back involved,
getting stuck
back in with the United States. Meanwhile, the other 737s that are a problem, those Boeing Maxes.
Yes.
Would you get on that plane?
So, my family has worked in airlines for a long time. My older sister, she's on the legal team with Southwest, which is why I have a companion pass.
Right, and by the way, Southwest Airlines was the biggest purchaser of the Boeing Max 737. For those who don't know, that was the planes that crashed, the Lion Air and the Ethiopian Air that crashed, brand new planes because of a computer software malfunction.
Right. Well, it was also because the pilots weren't trained.
Correct.
To handle that situation.
Correct.
So the thing is, Southwest is like one of the only carriers that actually have pilots that manually land the planes. Most airlines, their planes are landed
by software.
By software. So she said that they're working on, of course, bringing back those planes, but like now because of legal things, they have to actually say, hey, this is the plane that you're boarding. Like they have to say that.
Those planes but those planes still have not been. They have not been certified to come back.
Right.
One of the big things, and you pointed out, Boeing was saved over $2 or $3 million, I believe, by giving pilots the training for this airplane on an iPad.
Right.
On this.
Right.
This is how they got training.
Which
versus
is
being in an airplane simulator.
Exactly.
That and software malfunction. It takes a whole bunch of different things for ultimately these things to happen.
So to answer, I actually would. Because they are actually one of the safest planes if made right.
Right.
So
now
they're definitely not going to make that mistake again.
Now Boeing still has a big problem. They just fired their CEO, Muhlenberg.
Did they fire him, or he stepped down?
They fired him,
and
after they fired him, it just came out that they gave him $63.5 million retirement package after being fired. Yo-Yo, would you be willing to get fired from Bradshaw Live for $63.5 million?
Do I have to answer that question?
Hell yes. Fire me, Mr. Bernstein. Where's my check? Who gets fired and gets $63.5 million after he was the head of an airplane company that manufactured a plane.
Yeah, that's trifling.
And designed a plane that killed people.
Trifling.
Now, Boeing has now released all of their documents between Boeing and the FAA. The FAA being the gold standard for airplane safety, which we don't know about anymore. In one message, employees mock the Federal Aviation Administration and brag about getting regulators to approve the Boeing 737 jet without requiring pilot training. In another document, an employee ridicules colleagues involved in the development of the trouble plane, saying, "This airplane is designed by clowns who in turn are supervised by monkeys."
Oh my gosh.
Some of the most concerning messages between Boeing employees when it relates to certifying this 737 MAX involve discussions of problems with the company's flight simulators, in which the company employees suggest they misled regulators about potential problems with this airplane. In a tweet, it came out, "I still haven't been forgiven by God for the covering up I did last year," one employee says in 2018, referring to an exchange of information with the FAA. The 737 MAX long before the plane was approved to fly passengers. Another employee wrote, "Would you put your family on a MAX simulator-trained aircraft? I wouldn't. No."
Wow.
Now, the House Transportation Committee called newly released documents incredibly damning, adding that they paint a deeply disturbing picture of the lengths Boeing was apparently willing to go in order to avoid scrutiny, save money on pilot training, and put the flying public in danger. A Boeing official said that the communications were written by a small number of employees, primarily Boeing technical pilots and personnel involved with the development and qualification of the Boeing 737 MAX. I will say this. I am, as of now, unless I see something different, pretty confident that when this airplane goes back in the sky, it will be the most reviewed airplane in the history of the world, and certified as probably the safest airplane in the world before it goes up in the sky. I believe that.
What I agree. That's why I'll get on it. And it's nice and comfortable. It's big. Psh. Oh yeah.
All right. Meanwhile, electric scooters are making lawyers rich.
Why is that?
Because injuries have climbed to a 4-year high of 40,000 injuries with these electric scooters. Yeah, Moshe the Bulldozer Baruch he doesn't wish anybody harm, but he loves the scooter industry, I guess.
Wow.
So the electric scooter injuries have surged along with their popularity in the United States. 40,000 broken bones, head injuries, cuts, and bruises
gosh.
resulting from these accidents in 2019. Most occurred between riders between the ages of 18 and 34. The study analyzed U.S. government data on non-fatal injuries. Improved rider safety measures and regulations are clearly needed. Tom Hanks has now become a citizen of Greece.
Oh.
That's exciting.
Okay.
Now, the other day we discussed that Tom Hanks was presented with the Cecil B. DeMille Lifetime Achievement Award at the Golden Globes, and we were talking about, wow, we couldn't believe how many amazing movies.
Yeah.
Well, just the other day on December 27th, he was also presented with Greek citizenship. I can't pronounce his name. The president of Greece. Maybe you can help me. Prokopius Pavlopoulos.
Sure, that sounds great. That sounds great to
Julie
me.
says that was good. He signed the official paper marking the honorary naturalization of Tom Hanks. The iconic American film star has been among the most faithful of the Greek Orthodox Church for many years now, since he joined the church when he married his wife in 1988, his wife being Rita Wilson.
Is he still with her?
What?
Oh,
yes,
wow.
he's still with her.
That's
Now,
awesome.
Ancestry.com discovered, what did they discover? They discovered he was in, the Mr. Rogers movie.
Yes, he was.
Okay,
He
now
plays Mr. Rogers.
Ancestry.com, this is weird. Did you see this?
No.
Ancestry.com discovered that Tom Hanks is actually related to Mr. Rogers.
What?
Yes, they're 6 cousins, according to
Are
Access
you
Hollywood. Isn't that
serious?
weird?
And did he not know that?
No, he didn't know that when he took the role. So he's
What?
playing Mr. Rogers in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and he didn't know that he was related to Mr. Rogers when he took the role.
Wow.
Ancestry figured it out that they were both 6 cousins from a common ancestor, Johannes Meffert.
Wow.
So Johannes Meffert, I guess Tom Hanks did the Ancestry.com at some point.
So that means that Fred Rogers did too.
Yes. And they have a mutual relative by the name of Johannes Meffert. Now, I did 23andMe, and I have to say that I looked through all of my relatives. They gave me about 500 relatives that I was related to all over the world. There's not one famous dude there.
Oh man.
Not one.
Dang.
There's nobody famous in my family. I thought maybe they would say I'm related to Leonard Bernstein. Because it's St. Bernstein.
Yeah. Nope. No.
I'm like, damn.
Yeah,
That's a damn. They're like, you're the great grandson of Leonard Bernstein. I'm like, where's my inheritance? So we have a little Tom Hanks video. Let's watch.
Our friends at Ancestry did some digging. You are related to Fred Rogers.
Impossible. No, you're pulling our leg. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, so he didn't even know.
They didn't even know until our correspondent at Bradshaw Live. No, it wasn't our correspondent at Bradshaw Live.
Huge.
Yeah. And finally, there was a false alarm in Palm Beach, Florida.
What happened?
A police were called to a house because they heard the chilling cries coming from inside of the house. Let me out! Let me out! Oh! 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 Over and over. The neighbors were freaking out. 4 Palm Beach County Sheriff deputies pulled up. A man was in his driveway fixing his automobile. Palm Beach County Sheriffs got out of the car. They said, something's up. They hear screaming coming from inside. The sheriffs even heard it. Let me out! Let me out! Oh, oh, oh! They were about to arrest this guy. They thought he was like a mass murderer, kidnapper. Right. Turns out it was the man's Parrot.
Oh my God.
Yes, a video posted online.
What?
Yes, a video posted online. It doesn't identify the individual involved or reveal the location of the incident, except we know it was in the Lake Worth Beach, Florida area. And the Parrot clearly can be heard saying, "Let me out! Let me out!" and the heart-wrenching groans. Do we have the video? We have the video of this?
Wow.
Can you imagine? And this guy's just working on his car. All right, did you just see that? The guy's working on his car, like nothing's happening. You hear this screaming, and the neighbors are like, something's going on there. The police come barreling in.
That is insane.
And it was the man's parrot.
That is so weird. Like, if you really think about it, that is so weird that a bird can speak. Like,
Now, the police officers, they finally had a laugh about it. And the bird's name, it's a 40-year-old parrot by the name of Rambo. And and then the man came out, he introduced the police officers to Rambo. And afterwards, they learned that sometimes Rambo yells, "Help, help, let me out." Something he was taught when he was a kid, and Rambo lived in a cage.
Wow.
So Rambo, at some point in his life, the bird lived in a cage.
That's so funny.
And that's what he learned. And even though he was flying around the house and not caged, he just flies around all day, goes,
"Let me out!
Let me out! Ooh, ooh, ooh!" Thanks for watching. For more Brad Show Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.